That one line, man, it just sends a shiver down your spine, right?
And it perfectly sets the stage for what is, without a doubt, one of the most ambitious and maybe one of the most insane filmmaking projects we've seen in a long, long time. So let's get into it and figure out why this whole thing is such a massive, all-in gamble. Yeah, we're talking about Iron Lung. You know, the movie based on that super terrifying indie game. This is the story of how YouTube legend Markiplier, Mark Fischbach, is basically putting everything on the line to bring this vision of cosmic dread to the big screen. And you know, it's kind of the perfect project for a creator to tackle because it's not about big, flashy explosions. Nope, it's all about pure, suffocating atmosphere. All right, so to really get the movie, you gotta understand the world it's set in. And let me tell you, it is bleak. We're not just talking about your average everyday horror flick here. This thing is set against a backdrop of like total cosmic annihilation. Seriously. It all kicks off with this event called the Quiet Rapture. I want you to just picture this for a second. You look up at the night sky and there's nothing there. Not a single star. Every planet, everything you know, just gone. The only people left are the ones who happen to be on space stations or ships. And now they're just adrift, floating in a terrifying, empty void. So here's the mission. And man, this is where it gets really desperate and just claustrophobic. Humanity is basically on its last legs, right? But they find this one moon, AT5, and it has an ocean made of blood. Sounds awful, but it's their last desperate hope for some kind of resource. So what's their big plan? They grab a convict, they literally weld him inside this tiny janky submarine they call the Iron Lung, and they just drop him in. Oh, and the cherry on top, he's the 13th person they've sent on this little trip. Yikes. You know, the story of what's happening behind the camera is almost as crazy as the one on screen. This is not some big studio movie with a massive crew and all that. No way. This is the absolute definition of a passion project, and it's all being driven by one single person. And when I say one person, I am not exaggerating. I mean it in the most literal way possible. Mark Fischbach didn't just, decide, hey, I'm going to make a movie. He basically decided he was going to be the movie. I mean, just look at this list. This is insane. It's not just wearing a few different hats. He's the writer, the director, the star. Okay, that alone is a huge job for anyone. But then, he's also the producer, the editor, and here's the real kicker. He's financing the whole thing himself, and he's distributing it. He actually told Variety that trying to do all this was, quote, woefully unwise, and then he just went for it anyway. You gotta respect that. And that level of personal investment, you see it right there in the production. I mean, when your whole movie is set in an ocean of blood, you can't really phone it in, right? You can't cut corners. And to make it feel real, well, they went to some pretty extreme lengths. So, just to put this into perspective for you, for a long time, the 2013 remake of Evil Dead was the champ. It held the record for using the most fake blood in a movie, a whopping 50,000 gallons. Well, Iron Lung didn't just beat that record, it absolutely shattered it. We are talking about a literal ocean of the stuff. And this wasn't just for looks, okay? It had real-world consequences. Their commitment to using practical effects was so intense that Markiplier himself actually ended up in the hospital. Why? He got too much of that fake blood in his eyes. Now that is a level of dedication and maybe a little bit of craziness that you just don't see very often. Now the road from just an idea to a finished movie, it was anything but a smooth ride. This whole thing literally started as a joke on Twitter. But then it got real, fast. Production started. But then, bam, it hit a huge roadblock with the SAG-AFTRA strike, which just put a stop to everything. It took until June 2024 for him to finally be able to say, okay, the film is done. But here's the thing. Finishing the movie, that's only half the battle. Because Mark is distributing this thing himself, the second he called cut for the last time, a brand new massive challenge popped up. How do you get people to actually, see it? And this breakdown here really shows you what a challenge that is. You know how a normal studio movie works. It opens pretty much everywhere, in all the big chains. Well, Iron Lung is going a different route. It's aiming for maybe 50 to 100 independent theaters, just in the US, for its first run. And you can imagine, for his massive global fan base, this has created a ton of uncertainty and maybe a little bit of anxiety. Because of that, you have fans all over the country just glued to their screens, constantly refreshing a map, just hoping, praying that a screening will pop up somewhere, anywhere close to them. And you can really feel the passion from the fans on this. People aren't just kind of interested. No. You see comments online from people saying they are ready to get in their car and drive for hours, literally anywhere, just to get a chance to see this thing on a big screen. And then, of course, you've got his millions of fans who live outside the US. For them, the situation is even more up in the air. As of right now, there's no official plan for an international release. And for a fan base that big and that global, that's a really tough pill to swallow. So after this incredibly long, difficult journey, what's next for Iron Lung? What's the future look like? Well, a couple of the big puzzle pieces are finally starting to click into place. And here's the big one, the date that everybody's been waiting for. The film is officially set for a theatrical release in the US on January 30th, 2026. So yeah, go ahead and mark your calendars. But, of course, getting that US release date just makes the biggest question of all even louder. What happens after that limited run in theaters? The journey for this movie is far from over. You've got millions of people all over the world waiting and watching, wondering if this blood-soaked submarine will ever surface for them. And if it does, you have to wonder, will it bring a whole new era of creator-led movies along with it?